My ex cheated with my sister, so I let them plan my wedding without knowing I was the bride. After catching her fiancé cheating with her younger sister, Savannah ghosts the family and quietly plans her own wedding to someone else. People always say heartbreak makes you wiser. But what they don't tell you is this: heartbreak also makes you strategic. The day I found out my fiancé was cheating on me with my younger sister, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even confront them. I just smiled, because I knew exactly what I was going to do. 3 months earlier, I was engaged to Mason Cole. Mason and I had been together for 4 years. He worked in commercial architecture, said things like clean lines are everything and aesthetic over function, always. He had that polished charm that made waiters remember his name and strangers ask if he'd ever modeled. I wasn't delusional. I knew he was too good at being liked. But I thought I was the exception to the rule, the one who got to keep him. My sister, Hannah, was the opposite of me. She was loud where I was calm, glittery where I was grounded. Always the baby of the family, always the one who never had to earn anything. If I aced an exam, she got a shopping spree. If I got into college, she got a new car, just so she didn't feel left out. Still, I loved her. I tried to. She was my sister. So when she asked if she could help plan the wedding, I said yes. When she offered to help Mason pick out the venue, I said yes. When she offered to co-host the engagement party with him, I said yes. Like a fool. Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next. Like someone who hadn't already started to feel the tension. The way Mason's phone tilted away when I walked into the room. The way Hannah started calling him Mace. The way my mother said, they have such a natural energy together, don't you think? Yeah, I noticed. But I also knew what was coming, and I wasn't going to stop it. The night before the engagement party, I accidentally left Mason's phone unlocked on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. I knew the code. He didn't know I knew. I wasn't looking for messages. I was looking for photos. And I found them. 3 weeks old. Hotel room. Mirror selfie. Hannah in a white robe, Mason kissing her neck. I didn't cry. I took screenshots. Emailed them to myself. Then deleted the originals like I'd never been there. The next morning, I got dressed like nothing was wrong. Light blue satin dress. Hair curled. Smile fixed in place. I walked into a party that was meant to celebrate a future I no longer had any intention of living. And there they were, the happy couple. They didn't even flinch when they saw me. Because they didn't know I knew. Mason handed me a mimosa. Kissed my cheek. You ready for forever? Hannah clinked her glass against mine. Cheers to true love. I sipped the champagne. Absolutely. I can't wait to walk down the aisle. And I meant it. Just not their aisle. That night, while they toasted and twirled and posed for pictures that would end up in frames no one wanted, I started my list. Vendors. Venues. Guests. Deposits. I let them plan everything. I let them think they were pulling it off. They didn't realize they were building my revenge wedding with their own hands. 2 weeks later, I called my friend Jules in New York. I need a favor. Are we burning something or burying it? Neither. I'm getting married. To who? Not important. I just need help pulling off the most beautiful, elegant, absolutely savage wedding of the decade. Jules didn't ask questions. She just said, tell me where to ship the dress. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I found that it's much more effective when it's served slow, with candles, calligraphy, and a multi-tiered buttercream cake. While Hannah and Mason thought they were planning their perfect wedding, I was using every meeting, every choice, and every smug little moment they shared to construct something they never saw coming. I didn't just want them embarrassed. I wanted them exposed. Mason believed he was being discreet. If I hadn't already seen the pictures, I might have believed it too. He still texted me goodnight, still kissed my cheek before leaving for work dinners, still told my dad he couldn't wait to start this journey. But once you know the truth, the lies become fluorescent. Everything he said glowed with self-preservation. And Hannah? She wasn't even subtle. I found this amazing venue with Mason. We accidentally drove past it and just fell in love. The florist and I have been texting. Mason really likes hydrangeas, by the way. I've been working on the seating chart. You'll love what we did. She couldn't help herself. Even in secret, she wanted credit. And I was happy to let her take it. Because the real show wasn't being planned through her clipboard. It was being crafted through mine. I started meeting with vendors quietly. The ones Mason and Hannah didn't know about. Jules handled the venue, a private estate in upstate New York with a lakeside ceremony space and a wraparound stone terrace. It was everything Hannah thought she was picking, except better. We chose a string quartet instead of a DJ. Florals that matched their vision down to the bouquet, but more refined. Same color scheme. Same menu. even the same cake. But everything had one difference. It was for me. I sent anonymous, hold-the-date cards to a curated guest list. Just 35 people. Friends. My family members who actually had a spine. Co-workers who knew how to keep a secret. Each invitation came in a sealed ivory envelope with one line printed inside. Please join us for a celebration. Dress formal. Trust the bride. No names. No location printed. No RSVP number. Just a QR code that led to a password-protected page managed by Jules. If anyone asked about it, they were told, it's a surprise wedding. You'll know when you get there. Meanwhile, Mason and Hannah were deep in the chaos of their big day. Venue visits. Tasting menus. Dress fittings. Hannah even FaceTimed me to show off the gown she just fell in love with. It's strapless, with this gorgeous slit. Mason said it looks like something you'd pick, but I couldn't resist. She laughed. Like that wasn't the point. Like her whole wedding wasn't built on the bones of mine. You look beautiful, I said. And I meant it. Not because I was proud of her, but because I knew exactly how it would look crumpled in a corner, mascara streaked, abandoned before the cake was even cut. Connor, an old friend from college, was the final piece of the plan. He'd reached out a few months before about a startup project. It turned into coffee. Then wine. Then something that felt like warmth in the middle of a cold, calculated winter. He didn't know everything, but he knew enough. You're not rebounding, he told me one night. You're rebuilding. Same materials, different blueprints, I said. Just tell me when and where to show up. We held our own small ceremony 2 weeks before the other wedding. No photos posted. No ring selfies. Just vows whispered beneath hanging lights and mossy trees. No mother sobbing in the front row. No sister clapping too hard. Just us. And silence. The kind that means peace. But I wasn't done yet. Because Mason and Hannah were still full steam ahead. And that meant the real act, the final act, was about to begin. I waited until the week of their wedding. Mailed the last round of details to my guests. And then, 48 hours before their big day, I made the final move. I booked a private shuttle from their rehearsal dinner venue to my wedding estate. Same time. Same evening. Same illusion. All the guests they'd invited, ones they didn't know I'd already spoken to, would be redirected. Their chairs would be empty. Their band would play to no one. Their photographer would capture silence. And by the time they realized what had happened, I'd already be married, already be toasting, already be dancing, to the wedding they planned for me. The night before a wedding is supposed to be emotional, intimate, a quiet celebration of what's to come. That's what Mason and Hannah thought they were walking into. Their rehearsal dinner was hosted at the Maplewood Inn, a picturesque estate with twinkling string lights, antique glassware, and carefully curated menus. Hannah had insisted it be elevated but rustic, something she read in a bridal blog she didn't understand. It looked like a dream, but it wasn't theirs. Not really. Because while they toasted champagne and posed in candlelight, the dream had already started to unravel. The guests began arriving at Maplewood right on time. The ones they expected, family, friends, a few coworkers who could tolerate them long enough to cash in on an open bar. What they didn't know was that over half of them had received a second invitation. A private message, delivered weeks earlier. You're formally invited to the real event. Trust the bride. Transportation will be provided after the rehearsal dinner. Most didn't believe it at first, but they were curious. And Hannah and Mason? They were too busy basking in their own delusion to notice. I'd arranged everything with precision. At exactly 9:45 p.m., 3 private black shuttles pulled into a small gravel lot a half-mile from Maplewood. Drivers had lists. Black suits. No questions asked. Guests boarded in pairs, some laughing, some unsure. When asked, is this some kind of flash wedding? Another whispered, if this is what I think it is, it's genius. Meanwhile, back at Maplewood, the rehearsal was winding down. Mason made a toast, something about fate, loyalty, and building a life with someone who gets you. Hannah followed, of course. She always had to speak second. I just want to say how thankful I am that we're surrounded by people who've supported us every step of the way. Especially those who saw us for what we were before we even did. She looked directly at her mother when she said it. Her mom dabbed a tear. Mason kissed her forehead. And then the first red flag fluttered into view. By 10:10, people were gone. Not all of them. Just enough to notice. The older guests blamed traffic. Some whispered about early flights. But when the photographer, my photographer, told Hannah they were waiting for 10 people to come back for final group shots, she looked confused. They didn't tell me they were leaving early. Mason brushed it off. They probably just stepped outside. But Hannah knew better. She always noticed when the room wasn't looking at her. Across the state, under a canopy of silver string lights and hanging wisteria, I walked down the aisle. Wearing the dress they picked. carrying a bouquet they chose, to music they selected. And standing at the altar was Connor, in a suit we tailored quietly months earlier. His smile was calm, his eyes steady. Our friends, my friends, stood and clapped, some with tears, others with smirks, because they understood exactly what was happening. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a correction. Back at Maplewood, Hannah was pacing. Mason checked his phone again. No messages. The best man leaned over and muttered, "Have you seen the group texts?" Mason opened his phone. A silent group chat with a dozen unread messages. All of them, from people on that shuttle. Photos of another venue, another altar, another bride. One read, "This is unreal. Is this your actual wedding?" Another, "Wait, is that Mason's ex?" And finally, a photo of me, smiling, standing at the edge of a lake, married. I wasn't cruel. I didn't post anything, didn't tag, didn't go live. But someone else did. Someone who'd been quietly waiting to watch Hannah fall. A cousin, maybe. A coworker tired of pretending. The video showed up on Instagram stories within the hour. And by the time Mason and Hannah saw it, the likes were already climbing. She lost it, screamed, accused the servers of betrayal, told the planner to fix it. Mason just stood there, frozen, then walked outside. No yelling, no speech, just silence. Because he knew. He finally understood. They hadn't stolen anything from me. I let them borrow it. And now? I'd taken it back. We were supposed to keep it private. That was the whole point. No hashtags, no big posts, no announcements. Just a beautiful, intentional wedding for people who knew the story already, who didn't need it packaged or explained. But the internet had other plans. By the time Connor and I cut the cake, the video had over 12,000 views. A shaky Instagram story captioned, "So the Real bride showed up somewhere else." The clip showed me laughing during the vows, holding Connor's hand, walking into the reception under a tunnel of sparklers. In the background, someone whispered, "I think she planned the whole thing." And honestly, iconic. I didn't even know about it until the next morning. We'd spent the night dancing under the stars, drinking champagne straight from the bottle, and soaking in every second of freedom I'd carved out for myself. No drama, no expectations, just peace. Connor and I were curled up on a blanket in the grass, shoes off, my head on his chest, when Jules walked over and held out her phone. "It's happening." I sat up. "What's happening?" "You went viral." I blinked. "What?" She flipped the phone toward me. And there it was. A compilation of stories, TikToks, and blurry videos with titles like "Sister Steals Fiancé, Bride Pulls Ultimate Switch." The savage wedding plot twist you need to see. This is how you do revenge with grace. People were commenting in real time. "She's a legend. Please let this be real. I need the full story immediately." And the final dagger, the sister wore the dress. But she wasn't the bride. Back at Maplewood, the damage was spreading faster than Hannah could contain it. The reception space was half empty. Her bridesmaids were nowhere to be found, because two of them were at my wedding, toasting and slow dancing under chandeliers they helped me hang the day before. She was trying to make speeches to a room full of empty tables. Mason? He wasn't there. He'd left sometime after midnight. Rumor was he'd taken a cab and disappeared. No one had seen him since. I didn't gloat. I didn't post. But people found me anyway. I woke up to hundreds of DMs, strangers, supporters, people with stories of their own. My sister slept with my fiancé too. "I wish I had the guts to do what you did. Thank you for showing that leaving doesn't have to mean losing." By noon, #RealBride was trending on Twitter. Jules handled the press requests like a bouncer at a VIP club. No comment. "She's on her honeymoon." "Yes, she's real." "No, she's not interested in your podcast right now." Connor just laughed every time her phone rang. "You've become a symbol," he said. "I didn't mean to. That's why it worked." Hannah called once. Blocked number. Straight to voicemail. The message was short, tight, controlled. "You made your point. Hope you're proud of yourself. I guess it's easy to look classy when you've had months to plan a lie." She didn't cry. She didn't beg. Just left a final stab, sharp as always. I didn't respond. But I saved the message. Because it reminded me why I'd done it. A week passed. Then two. The buzz died down. People moved on. But something stayed with me. It wasn't the attention. It wasn't the views. It was the stillness. The knowledge that I hadn't just survived betrayal, I'd stepped around it. I didn't scream. I didn't burn it down. I just let it collapse under the weight of its own ugliness. And when the dust cleared, I was already gone. Connor and I flew to Italy a month later. Not a honeymoon. A beginning. We didn't talk about Mason or Hannah. Didn't rehash it. Because it wasn't our story anymore. It belonged to everyone else now. and we were busy writing something better. It took 2 months. 2 months of silence. 2 months of watching from the sidelines as I lived my life, and they watched theirs fall apart. Then came the knock. I wasn't surprised. People like Mason and Hannah never stay gone. They just wait until they think the dust has settled and your defenses have softened. They call it timing. I call it arrogance. It was a Saturday, late afternoon. I'd just gotten home from the farmer's market with Connor, a baguette tucked under my arm, sun still warm on our shoulders. We were laughing about something small, something real, when I saw the car in the driveway. Mason's car. Still polished. Still trying too hard. He was leaning on the hood like he thought it was a magazine cover. Connor looked at me. Want me to handle it? No, I said. I want to hear what fiction he brought this time. He straightened up when I stepped outside. Same smile. Same soft eyes. But something was off. His confidence was chipped. His collar wrinkled. He looked like someone who'd been chasing a version of himself that no longer existed. Hi, he said. I waited. You look good. You look like you haven't been sleeping. He chuckled, like we were old friends meeting by accident. Can we talk? We're already talking. Privately. You lost the privilege the day I watched my sister try on a dress she picked out for herself using my ring. That shut him up. But only for a second. I didn't know how to explain it. You didn't try. It just happened, Aaron. I swear. I didn't plan to fall for her. You didn't fall. You crawled. She was there when things felt off between us. You mean when I was working late? Paying bills? Planning our future while you flirted with someone who couldn't spell responsibility? He looked down. She's not who you think. Oh, I know exactly who she is. She's you, with a better skincare routine. He looked up then. Not angry. Not defensive. Just tired. She left. I blinked. Hannah. Packed her stuff 2 weeks ago. Said she didn't sign up to be the villain. She wants to rebuild her image. Let me guess, she's starting a podcast. A blog. I actually laughed. It caught him off guard. What's it called? How to Wreck a Wedding and Still Cry on Cue. He didn't smile. I messed up. You built the mess. I know. But part of me hoped. I don't know. That there'd be a version of us that could exist again. There is. It lives in the past. You're welcome to visit it. Just don't stay long. He tried again. You really married that guy? Connor? Yeah. Twice, actually. Once for peace. Once for power. You love him. Enough to never mistake what we had for what I needed. He stood there, blinking like someone who'd just been told gravity wasn't real. I could have let him linger. I could have given him more. But why? Why reopen a door when you've already built a better house? I turned to go inside. Goodbye, Mason. That's it. That's everything. He left without another word. Didn't even look back. Because he knew. I wasn't angry anymore. And that's what scared him the most. The next day, Hannah messaged me. Of course she did. A paragraph in lowercase. The kind of faux casual text that's meant to disarm you. Hey, I know it's been a lot. But I was hoping we could clear the air sometime. I miss my sister. I missed before all of this. I stared at it for a while. Then typed, you missed before you got caught. She replied, that's not fair. So I said, no. What wasn't fair was standing next to you at my engagement party, while you smiled at the man you were sleeping with. She didn't answer. But she read it. Closure doesn't come with tears and hugging it out in coffee shops. It comes in moments like that. When you say the truth. And don't wait to be understood. I told Connor everything. He didn't ask for details. Just listened. Then said, you want to block them? No. I want them to watch. People always ask me if it felt good. The revenge. The planning. The moment the curtain dropped and the truth unraveled at someone else's feet. And yeah, at first, it did. It was like watching something rotten fall apart in real time and realizing you were never the one who was broken. But here's what they don't tell you. Revenge isn't what heals you. Leaving does. In the months that followed, life got quiet in the best ways. No more group chats with Hannah's passive-aggressive gifts. No more Mason pretending he knew what I needed before I even said it. Just early mornings with Connor, coffee and mismatched mugs, the kind of silence that doesn't ask for filler. Peace isn't dramatic, but it's loud in its own way. People still DM me sometimes. Strangers. Women mostly. Some tell me their stories. Others ask me to tell mine again. How did you pull it off? Do you ever regret it? Would you do it differently? And every time, I answer honestly. No, I don't regret it. But I didn't do it for them to hurt. I did it so I'd stop bleeding. I kept one thing from that wedding, the dress. The one Hannah thought she picked. The one Mason said looked like something I would wear. I had it boxed. Not as a trophy. As a reminder. That you don't need to scream to make a point. You just need to know who you are when everything else falls away. One day, I got lunch with a friend of a friend. She worked in publishing. We were halfway through iced teas and grilled chicken wraps when she said, "You ever thought about writing this down? Not the drama part. The healing. The rebuild." And that's when I realized. This wasn't a wedding story. It was a becoming story. So I wrote it. Not for Mason. Not for Hannah. Not for the women who tried to turn my pain into gossip or hashtags. I wrote it for the girl who stayed quiet for too long. For the woman who thought being picked was the prize. For anyone who's ever loved someone who didn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes people ask if I forgave them. Mason. Hannah. And I always say the same thing. Forgiveness doesn't mean I invite them back in. It just means I stopped letting them live rent-free in my head. They're ghosts now. No more calls. No more messages. Just a lesson I've already learned. Connor and I bought a home. Nothing huge. Just space. For growing things. For building new traditions. For laughter that doesn't have to be earned. He doesn't fix me. He just shows up, every day, the same way. And I don't question it anymore. Because when you've been through fire, you stop apologizing for wanting to be warm. We hosted a dinner party last month. Jules was there. So were the guests who showed up for the real wedding. Talia made her signature sangria. Someone brought a cake that said, "To beginnings we get to choose." And at one point, someone raised a glass and asked, "Would you change anything?" And I said, "No. Because if they hadn't betrayed me, I might have never left. If I hadn't left, I might have never found this." I looked around at everything I'd rebuilt and realized this was never revenge. This was rescue. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it too.